Welcome back to Storytime with Angel. This is the second in our special edition for the MCB Quarterly launch. That's the MCB Quarterly Volume 2, which launches this Friday on July 31st. It is up for pre-order. I'll have the links below. But we wanted to read little excerpts from the wonderful short stories that we got for this edition. This second one is Translation is the title, by J. Scott Coatsworth. And this is a contemporary gay story. It's not a traditional romance arc, but I really enjoyed this story a lot. It is about a young man who's kind of struggling to find what he really wants in life. And we're out here in the sunroom. It does look a little bit different out here right now. We have our newest acquisition over to my left. That's Sweet Pea. She's about a 25-pound, possibly half Maine Coon cat. She's absolutely enormous. So Sweet Pea's very sweet, as long as she's not frightened. But I don't think the story will frighten her if she happens to comment. She's probably enjoying it. She's also very vocal. So this is Translation by J. Scott Coatsworth. Vado a letto. Dominic stared dreamily out the window at the vibrant ivy climbing the brownstone across the street, and at nothing at all. His desk was littered with paper, half-empty cans of Wild Cherry Pepsi, and his iPhone attached to his ears via a long white cord. It was another Monday morning at the office. The sexy male Italian voice on the instructional podcast repeated itself. Vado a letto. I am going to bed. In the window's reflection, he could just make out his boss, Dante, in the office behind him. Dante was behind his desk, his handsome Italian features drawn tight in concentration. I'd like to vado a letto with him, Dominic whispered. What? Kristen was at the desk next to his. She looked vaguely annoyed at the interruption, frowning at him. He pulled out the earbuds. Nothing, he said, smiling privately. Just a little Italian study time. She grinned. Still doing that, huh? She glanced over her shoulder. He's out of your league, you know. Shut up. At least he plays for my team. If he's even single. She stuck her tongue out at him and went back to work. Break time was over. He stared at his screen where the layout for page 17 waited. It was easy money, writing copy for a home decorating magazine. Inhabit paid the rent, so he could spend his nights writing the great gay American novel. He'd finished one already and had sent it off to a dozen publishers in the hopes of getting his big break. Sometimes he wondered if he spent his most creative hours and energy on the magazine at the expense of his true passion. Maybe cranking out copy dulled his writing muscles. 5 years out of college, and he'd been published in 2 prestigious writing journals, which paid next to nothing, and had his first novel rejected by 10 of 12 publishers. We're sorry, it's just not what we're looking for, was the universal refrain. Add in his short story and poetry rejections, and he was closing in on 70. If that old rule of thumb was right, he was only 30 rejections away from getting published. Really published, with a paycheck. If only it were that simple. He finished page 17's layout and the next 3, and then took a bathroom break. He needed to be away from his desk for 5 layout-free minutes. The bathroom was gloriously empty. Remodeled last year for the DIY issue, it was lined with earth-tone tiles, sparkling steel urinals, and one of those sinks with the wide ceramic bowl that sat above the granite countertop. It was Dominic's sanctuary. As he relieved himself, he stretched his arms out overhead and rested his head against the wall, letting his mind go blank. The door swung open, and he pulled his arms down in a rush, embarrassed. Ciao, his boss said, standing at the urinal next to Dominic. Ciao, he replied. Come stai? He tried not to let his nervousness show. Dante always affected him that way. With his curly dark hair, olive skin, and smoldering Italian good looks, he was exactly Dom's type. But the man's effect on his nerves was especially bad here, when his pants were literally down. Dante's cologne was almost overpowering. You are becoming good, Dante said, clapping him on the back. What? Oh, the Italian! Dominic smiled despite himself. Grazie, he said, blushing My friend Enrico is helping me learn a few new phrases. Dante had transferred to Inhabitat 3 months earlier from the company's fashion division, and Dominic had been enthralled by him immediately. He'd restarted the Italian lessons shortly after. We are, how do you say it, working up a new feature on modern Italian designers for October, Dante said casually. He was not pea-shy, clearly. I thought you might want to take part. His English was good, but not perfect. That was one of the things Dominic found most attractive about him. Dante buttoned up his fly and went to wash up. Take part? Dominic shook his head. I'm not that good with the language yet. Truth was, Dante was a hell of a lot better with English than Dominic would ever be with Italian. Next to each other in the mirror, they were about the same height, but where Dominic was thin and blond, Dante was substantial. Not heavy, just solid, a real man, that old, tall, dark, and handsome thing. Dominic? What? He realized his boss had been talking to him. Sorry, just a little distracted. What did you say? Dante smiled slyly. He clearly knew the power of his good looks. I said that all these guys speak their English really well, and you could practice some of your Italian with them. It would be a win-win. Sitting in on the meeting would be a promotion, at least in responsibility. He wasn't sure he should take it. Was this really what he wanted to be doing for the rest of his life? But if it meant getting closer to Dante, I guess I could give it a try. It was a gorgeous spring day, so Dominic grabbed a slice of pepperoni at Piece of Pizza and climbed the stairs to the rooftop terrace of the 4-story walk-up that housed Inhabit to enjoy his lunch. He ate half the meal and then sank back into the chair, his eyes closed, listening to a little vintage 80s pop. It soothed his jangled nerves. The sun on his face felt good, and he drifted into a state of bliss, forgetting about the magazine and Dante and his writer's block for a few precious moments. Someone cleared his throat. Dominic's eyes flickered up. Speak of the devil. Dante stood there, his lips moving, but Dominic couldn't hear what he was saying. He popped the earbuds out and caught the tail end of the sentence. If I sit here? He grinned. Sure, sorry. I was a little lost in the music. What do you listen to? His boss brushed the seat clean and sat down, putting a brown paper bag on the table. Oh, a little modern synth music, some 80s stuff, sometimes some old school R&B. It calms me down when I get a little manic. He pointed at Dante's lunch. I wouldn't have pegged you for the brown bag type. Dante laughed ruefully. I have to be careful with my monies. My condo is molto caro, very expensive. I have to pay for it myself now. He pulled out a sourdough panino stuffed with prosciutto, a pellegrino, and a hard-boiled egg. God, he's gorgeous, Dominic thought, with his pressed white shirt, thin black tie, his piercing hazel eyes. Even his laugh. Dominic tried to keep his cool. This guy was his boss, after all. It's just you? He said, taking another bite of his now cold slice of pizza. What happened? Dante looked thoughtful as he chewed on his sandwich. A cool breeze stirred the leaves on the rooftop as he watched Dante. Dominic felt goosebumps rising on his arms. It's just the wind, he told himself, but he'd always been a lousy liar. My boyfriend, Robert, left me, Dante said at last, staring off into the past. We were with each other for 5 years. He's the reason I came here to the United States. Seriously? I always thought you came here just to work for the magazine. Play it cool, Dominic. Dante shook his head. Maybe I would have come here eventually, anyhow, but I met Robert in Venice at Campo San Giacomo one summer day and fell in love. He smiled wistfully. Have you ever felt that? Amore, that instant reaction to someone. They make you shake all over with anticipation. You want to be close to them, but it makes you crazy. Dominic nodded, shivering a little inside himself. If you only knew. Alrighty, that is Translation by J. Scott Coatsworth. That's one of 4 really wonderful LGBTQ short fiction pieces we have in the 2nd volume of the MCB Quarterly, coming out this Friday. That's July 31st. Sweet Pea has fled to her windowsill to watch the birds, so we did have some nice quiet. We'll be back next week with excerpts from the other two stories. And those are, let me think real quick, those are both science fiction stories, so those should be a lot of fun. I loved all the stories we got this time. I can't wait to share them all with you, and hopefully you'll think about picking up the quarterly and reading the whole things. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening.